Hey everybody, I have just getting it together. I think I have it going today. How's everyone doing? We're going to be painting Jurassic World minis today. I have made some progress on some of the other things I was doing before this. I think I showed, well, we're gonna do the I'm painting the Jurassic World minis, Jurassic World Legacy of Isla Nublar minis as they are unlocked in the game. So we have 4 that I need to get done, and the stream is going to be sponsored. Plus the gameplay streams are going to be sponsored by Funko, which is very exciting. And Nikki and I are really excited to play the game because we played the first 2, which is, you know, like the one that you can replay. The number 1 is the training level. Several times, and we played level 2 at an event at the beginning of March at Funko's headquarters here in Los Angeles, which is a big store, real nice. And we've wanted to continue with it. We have not had the time, so this is going to get us to do it, and we're very excited to try it out. There are 4 minis at the beginning here that we have to paint. I've already done one that I'll show you as an example. And then this Thursday, we will stream with Candace. We're going to do, starting at 5:30 Pacific PM PDT. We'll be doing that. Hey, Michael. Hey, Cat Love. This is, I'm excited too, because when I saw the minis, I was excited to paint them. And we do not have the amber ones, which I think were they were a stretch goal on Kickstarter. And those are awesome. I would like to have those too, but I actually like the painted ones. But let me cut to the down table and make sure I get this right here. Yay! So I was working on the Gaslands cars, and this is the first one I had done, and it turned out great. I also, by the way, X-Acto knife injury. Don't be careful. It's not that bad, but it's bad. And I was working on a storage solution for a game. Let me zoom in a wee bit here. I was working on a storage solution for a game, and boy, I think I paid the price. Maybe doing it too late. So this was the thing that I'm working on now is trying to figure out how to paint the rust. This is a thing called Rust Effect from Duplicolor in Europe, and you know, you just can't move paint cans. I won't be able to put any in my luggage or anything like that when we go to Spiel. But I did try this, which is it's called, I have the brown, darker brown one in here. It's called Multicolored Texture. When I was looking at it on Home Depot, it said gloss, which I was like, what? But then you see the can, the lid is supposed to tell you what it is. And then when I sprayed, it was very shiny, and I was like, uh-oh. But turns out it's not. I do think you need a brown undercoat. It does not have like the metallic look to it. You know, the metallic speckles, but that's fine, right? And it seems like it's similarly textured, maybe a little more so. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to do one and find out. I sure hope it works. If not, I'm going to have to figure out a solution for that I can airbrush and things like that. I also moved a little bit more further on Sam Wilson, Hawkeye, also known as Captain America. I mean Hawkeye, Falcon. It looks pretty good with the color, so I'm excited. You know, more of the color on here, so I'm excited. I will probably work on that a little bit more. I'll show you guys how that goes. But the minis we're going to be doing today, I don't have a lot of time. I actually have a meeting this afternoon, so I got to keep it within about 2 hours. Hopefully I can finish one. I did pretty well last night. So these are the minis that, I mean, they're fantastic. These are the minis that you get in the base at the start of the game. And you know, of course, they're red. The bad ones are red, and the herbivores bad ones. And they're not bad, but they're vicious and they're hungry. The green ones are herbivores. And I airbrushed them all black, and then did the zenithal highlighting where you can see like it's darker from underneath. So I then sprayed a gray at a 45-degree angle, and then a white from above. And I cheated a bit here because I wanted these reliefs to be kind of like a bone color. We'll see how that goes. The first one I did, which I'll show you in a moment, didn't quite get there. This is the T-Rex. He's pretty cool. You can see it's lots of elements. The plastic's a little flexy, but I think it should be fine. And then this one here, I did the same, so you can see underneath it's darker. This is going to give you the shading that you want, so it's a minimum amount of effort. Really, it is actually pretty quick. So yesterday, well, actually late last night, I painted the first one. This is the Triceratops. I watched the movie last night with Nikki, some of it, you know, trying to get some ideas for stuff. And I decided that I was going to make it look like, I mean, it looks like it's some sort of a display in a museum or something like that, or a, what is that place called? Rainforest Cafe. And so there's a few things I had to do because there is no texture on the Mini. I mean, there is, obviously. There's some folds and stuff like that, and there's some texture on the crown here. But there's a lot of scales. So what I ended up doing was I started with a brown, one of the Games Workshop or Citadel paints, the contrast paints. And you could see it kind of lost some of the shading because it's so dark, but it's still there. But then I stippled it. So I took a darker color on top of that and stippled it to give it a scaly look to it. And hey, thank you, one angry dwarf. It turned out cool. So the red, you know, the logo is yellow with the black for the you know, because the T-Rex has the, you know, that's the Jurassic Park logo, Jurassic World logo. But this is the display like throughout the movie. Like we only watched Jurassic Park. I mean, there's going to be monsters that are unlocked that are part of the rest of the movies, and I might look and see what those are doing. I have not seen any. We might have opened one. I know that Adam, one of the folks at Funko, tossed 3 boxes at us, and we chose one and opened it when we did when we finished the second level. So, spoiler, that's what's going to happen after we play on Tuesday, and then I will paint that Mini. But I think it works pretty well. The shading is really solid. Then I went in and, you know, did all that, did the little eyes similar to what they look like in the movie, and painted the horns slightly different color and the little horns on the crown here. And then there's a little bit of like you can see I used something called Knoll Oil, which is from GW, Games Workshop Citadel. It's a wash, and it kind of pooled, so it's okay. I'm not going to sweat it, but I used, I think boy, I don't exactly remember. I think I used a sepia color for this. This one's dark, and it's okay because I kind of feel like the friezes reliefs are concrete-y looking. This one's going to be fun too because this one's the only one that has like a fossil in the miniature itself. And this is going to be a challenge. I think I might leave the door as is. I might put some treatment on it, but and maybe, you know, paint the handle to be shiny. I'm not going to necessarily follow my current research about dinosaurs. All right, Mike. Michael's helpful. But yeah, I really actually like the door as it is, so I will probably do it because I airbrushed it quite a bit. I will also, in one of the further episodes that will follow the game nights, paint one in a different manner. I've been threatening to do the dry brush method, which, you know, an airbrush is, so the easiest way is probably spray can. You just spray it black. I wouldn't spend the time doing the 3 colors. I mean, you can, where you use a black, a gray, and a white to do the zenithal highlighting. You know, the zenithal is the sun coming down directly from above, and then shading, you know, and you can see it actually does pretty fantastic shading. So it'll give you a great result. But if you use a spray can, you could probably just use black and white because the white in a spray can is really solid. Like, it does a very, very good job. You will get more of a textured look where it will be because you want to lightly apply it to build up the highlight. And what'll happen is it'll be a little bit more textured, because spray cans are, the nozzles are generally a bit more, the particulates are a little bit larger than with an airbrush. But what I'm going to try to do, I'm hoping, I really should have done it on this one. This one would have been fantastic. But what I'm going to do is do one where I will probably be it'll take me a while. Actually, dry brushing takes time. And not that airbrushing doesn't take time too, because I'm very particular. I want my airbrushes to last, so I spend a lot of time cleaning it. But then I will dry brush it with a makeup brush. So this is probably spray cans are not cheap. The Games Workshop primers, which I really like, people did not like Corax, I have it here somewhere. Gray Seer, I'm sorry, I always get that wrong. The Gray Seer one, I think it's gone. I think they've gotten rid of it. I could be wrong, but they have added a new white one, so I believe they've gotten rid of one. But I think their primers are good. I think they're smooth and they go on well without obscuring any detail, but they cost around $20 a can, so they're expensive. Now, paint cans aren't cheap either. The Rust-Oleum that I bought here, this was $12 or $11? I think it was $11. That's not bad. You could probably paint a lot of minis with it. But they're messy. You should wear a mask, a ventilator mask, to protect yourself, because the VOCs are bad. And it's not great to spray airbrush paint either. You should wear a mask as well when you do that. I do everything outside to help. Sebastian, who primed these, the rust color here, this rust effect, he does it with a ventilator and he does it outside. He probably knows more than me. I do wear masks sometimes outside. Yesterday I did not, and it wasn't very windy, so I probably should have. Again, it's an acrylic. It's not as horrible, but it is horrible. They're all horrible. You're breathing particulates in, resins in the case of acrylics. But I will dry brush it. So what I'll do is that stream's probably going to be the bulk of it, will be me just preparing this mini. I'm hoping it won't take too long. What I will do is, well, I'm going to be doing each one, so I will not have another one. What might happen is we might paint something else. I'll show you a little bit of what I worked on since I got the airbrush out. I primed some other things. Hilariously, I didn't prime the things I should have been priming because I forgot I'd prepared minis. But yeah, so then when you do the black with the dry brush, this is a makeup brush. It costs like $4 on Amazon. It's from e.l.f. Terry Latorco, who used to work with Renegade, I don't know if she still does, was the one that introduced me to using makeup brushes for dry brushes. And the way it works is you literally, hey Aaron, thanks for checking it out. Yeah, I'm excited to do these. I mean, this one turned out neat. I'm hopeful they will all come out as cool as this one. When you dry brush, you paint the whole thing black, and then you put paint on the tip of the brush, not a lot, because what you're going to do is you're going to sweep your brush around on paper. I use paper towel to take out the paint till it's almost gone. Like it looks like no paint is going on. Then you start to brush and you go down, and that will pull the light from above, right? That would be the effect that you're getting. And I'm going to do that because it's a very valid and not expensive way to do the priming, the zenithal highlighting, which I think is great with regular paints and is phenomenal with the contrast paints. Contrast paints aren't cheap either, but there are some options now out there. I don't have any of the Army Painter ones yet, but there are other solutions, and the GW ones are $7.80, I think. They're not inexpensive, and but they're great. They actually last me a long time unless you spill them. So I recommend, if they still sell this, buying one of these or getting some sort of a holder to hold your paint, because the contrast paints are super thin and they'll spill so quickly. I actually spilled a little, this lid wasn't closed completely on this bottle, and I spilled a little tiny bit. It went everywhere. It was literally, this is called Blood Angels Red. It really looked like blood, and it was all over the place. It was not when I cut my finger. It truly was blood. But yeah, I'm excited to see how these go. And I think this is neat. I went in and did a little bit of, let me zoom in a bit on it so you can see some of the detail. I did a bit of the flowers. I don't really know what these flowers are. I kind of treat them like birds of paradise-ish. and I put the orange and orange color, and then put yellow highlights on there, and I think it looks cool. I also like the stamens or whatever the heck they are. I painted them an orangey yellow from GW's contrast lines. But you can see I did the eye, I did the stippling. I tried to give it like lighter on the top, which I'm not sure, is correct from the pictures. I looked at the, obviously I think there was only one scene of the Triceratops lying down, and I use that as reference. I don't like to just wing it. The T-Rex is definitely darker on top and lighter on the belly, like a lizard, so I'm excited to see how that will go. So let's get started on it. First thing I'm going to do is, I want to do this one. I'm very excited about the trees here, so, but I will paint, we'll see if I can get through this. This one actually probably won't be terribly long, but what I'm going to do is paint this area inside here white, so that I can have this bright red. I want this on all of them, and you can see there, I have to like get it in all these little spots, because then I drop the red in there, then I will paint the black on top of that. So let's see how it goes. I tried to make this, I wanted to make it look like a display, so the brown is wood, and then this is either, plaster or stone, concrete. I was thinking that this should be the big pile of dung from the Triceratops, but I'm like, no, it's a stone. So, and then I put a tree trunk, and I did it in a different color. Then I also did it, so I was mentioning the dry brush. I also did this with a bit of dry brush, and then put another ink on top of that. But it looks cool, and it does look woodish. I mean, I'm particularly happy with this little bit here. I thought, oh, you know what, I'm just going to paint that wood as well. Since I think of these as displays, although the game is not really displays, they're coming around and potentially trampling you. Actually, I think it's just damaging you, because the T-Rex and the Velociraptors are mean. So let's do that little bit of white. The downer is I don't like white. I've said this many times on the streams. I just think white is so chalky, but if you wait a long enough time, because here, I'll show you. I actually put a little bit of light color on the snout and the horn, because this I touched by accident. Plus I wanted it to be brighter. And looks like I touched a little bit there by accident. But these are battle horns, so. But it came out kind of chalky, and then I put a rinse. I put I think I used the, goodness gracious, I opened a couple of these. It might have been the Seraphim Sepia on that. And it's fine. And then I think I used a bit of, I know I've used a bit of this. This is some Army Painter Strong Tone. They have several different shades. They're great. This one's a darker one. And I used it, let's see, what did I use it on? Probably just the Triceratops. I'm sorry, that's off camera. But they'll be fun. I think they're going to look great. So let me get the white going. Let me get the palette open. I had such bad luck. I broke the nozzle for the spray can yesterday, popping the thing off. I do have some white here still. Let me see if it's going to be decent. I use a wet palette, and I think wet palettes are great. And some paints, again, I'm not a big fan of white, don't do they don't just do well in general. They're just, I don't know if it has to be the pigment. The pigment is just too chalky. Now I don't remember when I used things like titanium white, in acrylics back in the day, because I don't think I painted oil paintings. I have a couple oil paintings I did when I was in college, high school and college, but I gave up on that pretty quickly because I don't like dealing with oil paints. So I'm just going to go through and give it a couple coats of white so that the red will be super strong, because I really like that red. That should definitely be a big pile. I don't know, it doesn't look like that. It looks like stone. Although there was one little bit on the back that looked like a flower right here. I was like, well, maybe that's something organic. I mean, stone is organic too, but boy, this is wet. I mean, I don't like these paints. Come on. I might have a wash station here that I use for water, and it's not coming out. I don't have the music in the headphones. Is it going? I actually thought we... Oh, you know what? I'm on the call, so I would not hear the music. I actually like hearing the music, but that's okay. I will imagine the music. Da, 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 da. I do... So we're playing with Candace. I wish we could have Dave. Dave is going to be leaving back up to see his mom on probably before Thursday. And then... I might have I'm going to contact one other person because I would love to have 4, but the problem is nobody's reliably going to be available. I asked Aaron, who I would love to have play this because he didn't get to play it on the episode, and he has like a meeting during one of them. He's like, that'll just mess it all up. I'm like, that's okay. It is the one challenge about live streams. But Candace is here in LA. This will be. We actually haven't had Candace on the show in ages because we filmed them before the pandemic. And we have had her on, did we play? No, we did play one game. I was going to say we had her on the SDJ discussion video, but we did play top 10 with Candace, which was great. But now that we have her full time, I'm excited that we can actually have her involved in some more stuff. So I'm not going to play too much paint. I'm trying to play it thinly because it is one of the problems with white. I feel it goes on too thick. I don't worry about, like, I mean, I actually should just paint it all. It just takes more effort to cover with the black, and I'm using the contrast paint on the black too. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's, boy, this looks like it has a little bit of brown in it, but it should be fine. Brown and red are not a bad mix. But I will paint the red, when I paint this, I will paint the red first, then the black. I want the white to travel up the edge of the side of these things too, because I want that to be like, I mean, you can see here, I did a pretty good job of it. It's strongly on there, so the edges of it, you can see it's still red. I'm excited to paint the sign on this one, but it's actually, relief-wise, it's the opposite of what the sign is. So I'm now going to have to paint red inside of things. That's going to be a challenge. We'll see how that goes. Maybe I'll get to that today. It'd be cool. But these are actually pretty great. I mean, the details pretty, I mean, this is amazing, actually, these here, but in the minis themselves, the rest of the minis themselves, the dinosaurs, they look good. Wow, this is not in focus. Have you tried Monument Hobbies? I am actually using the ProAcryl titanium. Is it called titanium white? Yes, that's what I'm using right now. It is the best white I've ever dealt with. It's still not great. Cthulhu. I don't know what the deal is with white. I don't know if it's me. I try to thin it out. I'm splotching on water here. Uh-oh, there's yellow everywhere in my palette. That's not a good sign. So I used some yellow for that eye, and it is all over the place. I'm going to have to do some cleaning today. That could be affecting colors here. That was a mistake. Yeah, I had the tiniest amount of yellow. That stuff went everywhere. That was also ProAcryl. I like ProAcryl's paints, though. I think they're good. And I think this white's one of the better ones. I just don't... It's just white. Anyway, I just want to get this because it's going to take a couple of efforts to get it, and I would like to try to do it on the stream here. I have to get all these done, so I unfortunately can't paint them all on the stream, which I would love to do. Maybe if I get them all done, I'll start up again this afternoon. I have meetings and stuff, so we have the spiel starting in, we leave in a week and 4 days or something. No, it's Tuesday now, a week and 3 days. Which we just got back from Germany, as you might know, which was great. But goodness, I just wish we could have stayed. It's too much of a the flying is just hard. I actually don't mind long flights at all, but it was a real challenge to fly that, with masks, because we wear masks. I know some people don't think they do anything, but we have not gotten COVID yet. So maybe it works? I don't know. But yeah, we wear masks full time. We have just a lot, my mom is in her 70s, and Nikki's parents are 70s, and her dad just turned 80. So it's not going to be, we just don't want to get them sick. And I don't want to get sick. I mean, I really don't want to get sick, but I generally don't get sick very often. But anyway, we 18 hours or whatever of masks. Shouldn't be that long, but because we had to do a change, we actually flew to our first flight. Wow, this is messy. Our first flight was to Phoenix, which is strange. We were actually using points, so I'm sure that is the reason why. But the nice thing is that flight was not as packed as it would be if we flew the one out of LA. We just had a little bit of a longer layover in Phoenix because our first flight was delayed. Way before the flight took off, they canceled our flight that was at 11 and put us on a 9 o'clock flight. But the flight we flew American, so the flight to London was, we didn't stay in London, but the flight to London was not as packed. So that was actually a treat, because mostly nowadays, whenever we fly, the flights are packed. All my friends, everybody else who's leaving from smaller cities and stuff, they're like, our flights aren't packed. I'm like, wow, man, ours are always packed. Thanks so much, Cthulhu. I like painting these things, and my skills I've painted minis for a long time, kind of since I was a kid. I'm gonna let that dry. It's not really great. So the first thing I'm gonna probably do is the head, the body of this, okay, let me get this, it's not a, gosh darn it, I knew it. I had it in my head last night. It's not the one I normally think of it's good gracious. Anyway, the kid gets it right in the movie. Anyway, I'm gonna try to get the colors. Boy, I need to search this though. So I probably need to. What is it called? It's Brachiosaurus. There we go. My brain will get there eventually. Wait. But yeah, I'm looking at pictures as reference from the movie. I mean, we don't really know what they look like. I know these were kind of greenish. I want it to be a little bit more green. It's not green. I'm looking at the images here. It's kind of brown. Everything's brown. That's what's fun about the old dinosaurs that you had as a kid, where the T-Rex was red. I'm going to give him a little bit of green, though. Brontosaurus, yeah. Brachiosaur, there you go. So I'm going to use a crazy color here that has a neat green tone to it, and I will add brown to it. It's the color I used on the Red Skull. Is the Red Skull in here? His coat is, he's here. So this is the color. This is, and this is too green, but I love it. It is the Plague Bearer flesh. And I didn't have a military green because I haven't bought everything. I did, oh, you know what? That's the color I'm missing. I was like looking for a color, and it's Militarum green or something like that. Why is that not there? Anyway, I did buy that after the fact, but I think this color looks great. And this was like literally one coat of this green. Now, again, I'm going to add a little brown to it, just the slightest amount of brown, because I want it to be sort of this color. I don't really think any of the dinosaurs are green, but I want it to be a greenish tone. Anyway, magnets. Dave is writing, I'm sorry. Okay. So, I put everything on the wet palette. Again, I don't know, wet palettes are not great for contrast paints. They are fine for when you're working, but they don't generally carry over. It gels up. So there's a lot of interesting things going on in these contrast paints. which is what's cool about them. So a bunch of the new ones actually have single pigments, and I think single pigments don't let the paints work like contrast paints. Contrast paints have several colors because I believe some of that is, hey, MCH, maybe Chicago? You haven't caught us live? Well, we will be streaming live on Thursday at 5:30 Pacific Daylight Time, so 5:30 in the afternoon or evening. I'm painting these minis in prep. This is the Triceratops that I've already painted we're going to play on our live stream for the next 4 streams of games. We will be playing Jurassic World Legacy of Isla Nublar, which I'm excited about because Nikki and I had a lot of fun playing it and we wanted to continue, and Funko reached out and asked if we wanted to do more, which of course I'm like, yes. So I'm going to use a red with a little, a brown with a little bit of red in it called Gorgrunta Fur. All these GW type names. You're welcome. I'm glad you're enjoying this stuff. Our live streams are fun. I wish we could have more folks over for those. I was talking about that just a little bit ago about how much of a hassle it is. Okay, well that looks pretty good. That may not be enough paint though. Shucks. I'm pretty good at, I'm a good mixer. I mean, I've always mixed paints because I've never had every color, and not every color I ever want is available. But you kind of want to get it right in a go. Now, it's not that bad, and I think the contrast paints let you make mistakes. You know, they're not gonna enjoy. Although I don't know, you kind of can't use these paints to do contests, but I think you should be able to. I think you can get some fantastic results. The stuff I've been doing for Marvel United has been great. Okay, so this is a different brown. It's got a green tone to it. Let's see what it looks like on the mini. Let me close this up. I just said use the little stand for this thing, and I didn't do it. I generally use a large brush. I have used you just saw me painting this white with a smaller brush. Hey, that looks a little bit better already as it's dried. So you can see it has all this shading on it. This paint is semi-transparent. It will go on really easily. It might be a little too green, but we'll give it a couple coats. But you can see already how cool this looks. You have the shading that is built in from the contrast, from the zenithal highlight. And as I say, it is not hard to do without an airbrush. I mean, I love airbrush for priming. I think it's really great. And there's cheap ways to get into it. And you don't need so I use this airbrush. I have many. I have my very first airbrush I still have, but this is a Central Pneumatic, which is Harbor Freight. I think they're $20. They might have a new version now. They're $20, and it really steals the mechanisms from the Badgers. I'm a Badger airbrush guy. That was what my parents bought me, and I've just used them forever. So I got one when I was a teen. But I use this to prime, and it does a pretty good job. Its nozzle is not super fine, and I'm not looking to like draw with the airbrush. I'm actually just doing coverage. But that's inexpensive. You still need the compressor. Compressors are starting at about $50 probably. But you can get from Amazon, there are airbrushes that are all in one. It has a handle that is a compressor. I've seen some people say they're good. But to me, if you're going to just do this kind of stuff, as long as you take care of it, it probably will last you a while. And if you're going to do a lot of minis, I think priming is with an airbrush is my favorite way to do it. And I actually will probably buy one of those airbrushes just to try it out and see, because I think it's a great solution. So this is a Vegisaurus, so he's not going to be, you're not going to see many teeth. But yeah, these are, I think these minis are great. So this has some veggies in her mouth. They're all ladies, as I recall now from this movie. I fixed something for Nikki and I forgot to move it. But you can see, right, this is a couple minutes of painting here, except for me talking. Would be even shorter. And it looks pretty good already. Now, it's shiny. It will not be shiny when it's done drying. But it looks really good. And then you just add elements to it to pop it. Like, I'm going to paint the eyes. I don't recall what the eyes look like, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be yellow or orangish yellow. And I'll do that. So let's let that dry for a moment. It really will dry quickly. And then I'm going to look at the next bits here. So we have a bunch of green. I could potentially paint the green vegetation here. It should be pretty great. It's going to be dark. It's jungle terrain. So let me get out some of that. So I don't have a ton of great colors. I used last night on this looks okay. I used it on here, this orc flesh green, and it's a pretty good one. I used it on Hulk. Turned out pretty good. I don't have Hulk out here. I don't think he is in the main game box. But that was one of the first ones I painted. I saw Adam Smasher of Tabletop Minions on one of our convention streams paint it, and I'm like, I want to do that. I mean, I already knew I wanted to paint them. I bought all of them to paint them, but I was like deciding I was going to do contrast, which I'd already started getting into. And I thought, well, this is great. He's the one that really has been pitching to do the Zenithal highlighting to paint contrast paints. Already, I think this looks pretty great. Let's see. So one of the things I like to try to do is to blend, to make the two surfaces not look too different, like two great differences. So when I use my inks or the shades, GW shades, I want them to blend a little bit on the edges so that it doesn't look like one thing, that they kind of organically go together. So when I did this one here last night, I used this shade, which is essentially an ink, on the flowers. So I put it on the yellow that I had painted and all the orange, and then I came back in with the yellow that's all over in my palette here, unfortunately, to give pops of color on top of that. So I put some back on top of the pollen stamens and the stamens, and then a little bit on the leaves, the petals and the leaves, and I think it does a pretty good job. So, boy, that's getting kind of pale. We'll probably do another coat. I think Dave wrote me again. He wanted to come over and work on a project, I know. He's got his stuff he's working on. Puzzles. So the green doesn't have a ton of, I feel it's kind of like at least a limited amount of, so I'll show you what I mean here. There is some sediment here, and the sediment is one of the pigments, but if you look at Basilicanum gray, this is part of what contrast does. It obviously has a dark pigment in here, but it also has a light pigment. And I think that's part of what makes the contrast paint work, where it does this type of thing, the shading of it settling into, sorry, you can't see, settling into the folds of the fabric. Some of this is the zenithal highlight, and some of it is the paint. And I think the contrast paints are a really cool system to really speed up and just get these minis on the table. This is what you want, right? Everybody wants to play these games with painted minis, and something like this will look amazing in such a short time. So I'm going to actually put this on the wet palette, and I'm going to put a little bit of contrast medium in here as well. And what that's going to do is it will thin it out so that it still has the same consistency and a similar color, but it won't be as strong. I want it to build up on the leaves a little bit. Okay, so let's go. Contrast medium. It's the one thing I did buy another bottle. I generally try not to buy more paint when I don't need it, but whenever I'm looking for contrast medium, it's sold out. And contrast medium is literally just the solution that holds the pigments of it's not just, it's a mix of stuff too. And it holds the pigments, it suspends the pigments when you're painting. And then when it dries, the pigments either settle or stay on top. It might not be enough green, but again, it's just... so you can see, we already have the dark and the light on top, so this is probably going to be, it's pretty bright. But I'm going to put an ink on top of that, and it'll cut it down a little bit. So GW sent me, we are going to try to play at least one game in three new games that they released. And I had mentioned to them that I would, I was painting minis and I would probably paint them, and they're like, oh, we can get you the new contrast paints. And I was excited to do that because I would not buy them all. I know some of the colors aren't ones that I need, although ultimately I may go back and buy some of the ones from the first series I didn't get, but I have been able to try them. That red is one of the reds, and it is it's nice to have a solid red. There's definitely more, ooh, I just put the wrong color in that. Oh well. Hey, that's okay. It's great to have some of the more fantasy colors. They were all, all of these are designed, because there's so many greens and blues, and they're designed to be like single coats for people that are painting their armies and things like that. So it's not designed for standard kind of stuff, but there's lots of colors, and they do a pretty good job. He looks cool. She looks cool. I gotta remember, these are all ladies. Genetically modified to be ladies. Well, during their development. But already this looks kind of cool. You've got the light colors on top of the highlight, on top of the zenithal highlight paint base coat, and it's going to make them look good. One of the things you can do, like I did here, I dry brushed a little bit of lighter color on top of the bark, then so I painted the main color, put a little bit dry brush of the lighter dry brush on the bark, and then came back and inked it. So it brings the two colors together. But yeah, I'm excited to play the game more. I think that I know the Dice Tower did not like it, but my experience with it was it's a great legacy starter. I mean, there's also some other really family level legacy starters from the Zombie Kids and Teens Evolution, which I love those. Those are really, really basic, but this is more of a challenge, and it's a lot deeper. It's got 12 adventures total, including the starter level. I am going to run out of green. So I definitely want this to be darker though, but we'll see. I'll build it up. But you can see how quickly, even this is fine. Like I'm just ridiculously picky, and I'm not even the greatest painter, but I'm picky about how I want them to look. I tend to go back and pull a little of the color out of I don't want it to build up too much right off the bat, although it doesn't really make any, you can't see, it's out of focus. It doesn't make that big of a difference because you do want it to get in there eventually. I'm kind of nervous about it being too dark before I have the rest of it dark. But you can see the the Brachiosaurus is already mostly dry. That's how fast. I mean, I'm in Southern California where paints dry quickly. But I believe these dry pretty quick. You definitely want them to be dry before you paint anything else, because it is a film. All paints are a film that go on top of your whatever you're painting, and you don't want to break that film if you can. There are absolutely cases where you want to paint on top of other paint. That's called wet blending. I have actually done some wet blending with even the contrast paints. I think you can do some cool stuff. Wow, that does look pretty good already, but I am out of paint. I thought I had plenty, but I am really... It's lots of crevices here, so it's holding on to it. I love it that it's coming out of the treetops, though. So let me get a little more green in here. But I think I could be close to being finished with this one today. I mean, it's 11:16. Hey, Lincoln looked at the clock and it's 11:16. I have a tendency to look at the clock and it says 11:16. And it's weird to me. Let's get that. Would that color be a good snot color? The Brachiosaurus sneezed on Lex. That is true. It does kind of look like it could be. I think this looks right, though. It looks kind of dinosaur colory. I was not going to be painting. I don't see I guess the snouts were up above, you know, the nostrils. But yeah, I wasn't going to do, because I mean, the Triceratops was sick and had like mung in the corner of its mouth. It's like, I'm not going to paint that. Let's get some more green. I actually put little teeny glass beads. They're not beads, but Monument sells these agitator beads. They also have different agitator beads that I have not finished a bottle of their paint yet, and they come with an agitator in it. I believe the agitator in those is bigger because I got these bottles here. I specifically bought empty balls with a different type of lid, and these glass balls are clear and they're about 1/4 of an inch or maybe even a little bigger in diameter. But the little glass beads are fantastic, and I've just been putting them in every bottle, and they help because, you know, the bottom of these bottles it's got a curved edge at the bottom, so it's essentially about the same diameter as the glass beads, and it does a great job of getting that pigment of the pigments into the medium pretty quickly. I do use a vortex mixer. I've used one for a long time. They are great. It's basically what they use in a lab to stir test tubes, and it is a great way to go. It really it does a great job of mixing the paints very quickly, and you don't get your elbow thrown out. Anyway, but yeah, this is the game is delivering to Kickstarter backers now, and it's getting out I think it's available in retail now, and so it's going to be everywhere while we are in Spiel. I mean, we've been hoping to do the stream. I would like to actually be when the week it's up, but we will continue when we return. So the 13th, we're going to stream this coming Thursday, and then we will play the game again on Tuesday, and then I will do another paint stream. I'll do a paint stream on Monday, an extra day, to get the mini that we unlock on Thursday, and then we will play the game on Tuesday, and then I will paint again on Thursday before we leave town for Spiel. And then I will, so I'll paint that. Yeah, I paint Monday, we stream Tuesday, then Thursday, next Thursday, the 29th, I will paint one more time, another night, not one more time, but another night before we leave. I'm going to run out of paint again. And then, wow, it is out of focus. So the deal, what are you focusing on here? But yeah, we're gonna do 4 levels, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They do not want us to spoil 6, which the plan is we're gonna continue on our own and maybe talk about it. But we're very excited to actually do that. I would like to go all the way through. I have not done a full Legacy game in a while. We had planned to do back in 2020 to do Clank Legacy Acquisitions Incorporated, and that didn't happen. The pandemic shut that down. Had I known now what I knew then, well, if I knew now, if I knew now then what I know now then, boy, maybe this is too early for me today. I would have tried to have us do a bubble, because totally would have been great, and I know that Aaron and Deborah would have appreciated it. Dave, who was in the episode for Clank Legacy, went up to take care of his parents like right away, before I was even back from from Gamma, and he was smart. I mean, he knew what he was doing, but it just would have been better because we were actually really going stir crazy. We did, and a bubble would have been great. I was nervous about getting other people sick for the longest time. I had really no idea how much, like they said you needed 2 weeks to know whether you're okay. And, I guess I didn't even know there were tests. Dave actually got a test on his way up to his parents in March of 2020, but it was a downer because we really wanted to continue that. So it'd be exciting to actually do a little bit of Legacy game, and this is the perfect. We always have known. We did do. That was actually, so there you go. I'm not completely telling the truth. We did play the Initiative. We just got so excited about it, we just went for it. And a lot of people would like us to do that, continue on the show, but the problem is we don't cover other games when we do that, and there's so many games. I mean, speaking of, we actually, Funko sent us a bunch of stuff for our Halloween streams and Christmas streams. I mean, they just sent us the new games, and we played a bunch of their games during Christmas and stuff last year and the year before. So there's a bunch right there, and we're going to do those on streams, but we might also do some of the on the show. And there's just so many releases. There's actually, I mean, Nikki is working a little bit with Deep Print Games. Deep Print is the publisher, used to be Peter Eggert Spiel and his nephew, Philip. They started a new company called Deep Print, and they released Renature and Savannah Park. Hey, I got paint on my Band-Aid. Savannah Park, we've played the Caldera Park. We played the prototype, so I don't know if it's the final version, but Caldera Park is the follow-up to Savannah Park, and I think they're great. But I'm definitely looking forward to potentially, wow, those look pretty good. As it's drying, it seems to be a little bit more even tone. I mean, not even tone, but not, again, I'm going to probably put a little bit more on anyway, and maybe just the wash. So I now need to do the vegetation in the mouth too. Hey, Joe King. It would be really great if I get this one done quickly, because then I could start one of the other ones. I do have to do a meeting at, I have to have lunch and then this meeting this afternoon. So if by chance I can come back out, I might continue painting. Just it won't be on the schedule. One of the things, now if you're on our live page on BGG, you would already see it, and that's where I put the notes this time, but I'm going to put it in our post. You can kind of see what is happening on live streams that are gaming related. Adam, who as I said, mentioned earlier, Adam Smasher, who is Tabletop Minions, we put his streams on our BGG front page. So you can always see those on the front page, but you can, if you want to see what's upcoming, gosh darn it, this is just, the shape of this is not right, I think. If you want to see what's upcoming, I actually programmed in all the stuff for these streams so you can know when we're going to have gameplay streams for this, for Jurassic World. And as I said, we got a bunch of Halloween and Christmas stuff, so we will probably be doing some extra streams this fall and winter, because we want to cover, there's so many games that they sent us, especially I think there were a lot of Halloween or spooky themed games. So I'm putting another coat on here just to make it, to bring it a little darker, and letting it, you know, it's thin enough. I did not put in any contrast medium, I don't think, on this, which is honestly kind of a mistake. I think you should always build it up, but this is one of the lighter colors, I guess. He's very lizardy looking. She's very lizardy looking. So I'm painting this a little too soon next to this other paint, and I'm taking my, you know, putting my results in my my own hands, which is kind of scary. But you kind of want to do it, you want it to dry, because they'll blend. Thankfully these are similar colors, so it's not going to be too bad. But already that looks pretty cool. Now that's a lot of drying to do, so I'm going to have to leave it to be. What I will do then is I will paint the white on some of these other badges on the front of these other two minis, since they have to dry a while. I don't even want to pick that one up. I'm just going to let it go. It'll be dry pretty quickly though. So the Raptors is pretty white already, but I will paint it a little bit more. Wow, that dried out real quick. I need to put some water. I don't want green in that. I have a squirt bottle that I meant to. So I have one of these cups that I use to actually this is to get water. It's very good for cleaning, but I have a what is it? The brand. I never get the name right. It's Masterson or something like that. It is Masterson. They have a thing called Rinsewell, and it looks like a cat watering bottle because you have an inverted bottle. It's great though because it has a little reservoir at the. It has a tank on top and a reservoir that you can clean your brush with. You know, little ridges inside the pool, and then you have a button to clean, push it to clear it out, and it puts in fresh water. It's great, but it already has some green in there, which is not going away. So I need fresh water that's not got any color in it to thin the paints. Wow, it is very wet. I mean, very dry, very quickly. It's not right, but I also don't want that yellow in, so that I had spill. So I'm just going to leave it. So I'm getting rid of the shading when I do this, right? This is kind of the downer about it, but I want it to be strong. I actually really like this being as bold as it is, so I'm just going to try to do the same thing. Man, I don't think this is thin enough because it's going on too thick as it is. Let me get a bunch of water over here. I use the back end of my brush to get paint and water moved around. To do water is fine, but to do paint, you don't want it to be in your brush, your bristles. It kills the brush quickly. What happens is the paint dries inside the brush and forces the bristles apart, and I've seen it happen many times. So I use the back end of the brush and just dip it into the paint or the water and get some into the palette that way. Of course, I say don't do this, and there's a whole bunch of paint there at the end of the bristles already. I was very happy with that red though when it put on. It was like, oh, this is what I wanted. It the red I have, there's actually some good reds in the original 36 bottles or whatever of GW contrast paints, but there's not, it's not perfect reds because they're actually, the great thing is they're contrast paints, so they have the multi-level shading that goes on because they have several types of pigments in there. The issue is when you want something very bold, like we didn't have a yellow. The yellow we have is very orange in there, called Iandin yellow, and I like that color. And when you thin it out with the contrast paints, the contrast medium, it looks pretty yellow-ish, but it still has a little bit too much red for me. And so now they have three new yellows that are all better yellows. One of them is absolutely a single pigment color. So those are actually more like shades or inks when you think about it, but they're made as paints. They're really kind of more like, so one of the things I actually really like, and one of the things I used because I didn't have a good yellow, was Monument Hobbies transparent yellow. It's a great color. The transparent colors are great. I don't think I have all of them. Every time I've ordered them, some of them have been sold out. So that is the one thing I will say about Monument. You have a hard time getting everything. But it's very good. Very good colors. And so they're kind of like the contrast paints that are single pigment colors are kind of like that. And I think what is going on there is, you know, in the Monument ones, it's just a lot more, probably a strong amount of, like a strong pigment, but in a much more medium, so that makes it clear, transparent, and it's been great. I actually did a little bit. I used a tiny bit. I can show you while I'm waiting for things to dry. I worked on. I keep showing him. I'm so proud of how he turned out. Man, where is he at? Once again, on the Green Goblin. I can never see him from above. I guess maybe I'm looking for too much green, but I used some on the face here to get the brightest yellow on his chin, and it looks great. I mean, first of all, this is using, I think, the thinned down green that I've been using here. I think I used this color, Orc Flesh, and thinned it down, and then just layered it on so that it gave that cool, different multi-tone thing going on with his face. And it really looks great. I mean, you kind of want to have a bunch of different paints in your quiver to help give you different effects, and that's a good way to do it. You know, they're not. So I'm gonna have to paint that white too. You know, just to have regular paints, because I still use standard acrylic paints and the contrast paints, and so the one thing I have been doing on the Marvel United minis is I was painting everything with trying to paint as much contrast paints as possible to show how you can have pretty great results. And those are great. You know, I mean, it really, wow, see, now there's teeth that are going to be lost with what I'm doing here. But yeah, you want to have like all the different kinds of paints that you can. So, you know, painting everything with contrast paints, as I was trying to do, I mean, obviously you have to use white. There's no, I'm priming it with the standard white. But I just want you to see, like, you can paint your minis and get great results pretty fast with contrast paints. And, or the speed paints from, did I get inside the, oh, I can't look at that. No, I did that one. See the kind of results you can get quickly and have painted minis on your table, which is really the ultimate goal. One of the other things I also say that you should do is follow, especially if you're just starting, follow the colors that they use, that they illustrate with. When you did when I backed all the Marvel United, they before the delivery of everything, they got everything, pictures of all the painted minis from Big Child Creative. I believe they're the people that actually made the minis. And boy, those paint jobs are great, by the way. I saw them at, I saw something, it might have been theirs, at Gen Con, and I saw photos of people with them, with their costumes, people that were dressed as, cosplaying as those characters, and then they were holding that mini. They are, it's just a good way. That I don't pay that much attention to the comics. Nikki's more of a comic person than I am, and so she has more knowledge about all that stuff. But if you use like the pre-established colors, you can just move quickly. You don't have to, because that's one of the things that'll tie you up, is thinking about what colors am I going to paint this. And you know, particularly if you're doing something like an army for GW, you know, there's a lot of factions and different things that you can do to change the minis to be distinct for you. And if you just pick a faction and go with the colors, then great. You can also just make up your own faction once you feel comfortable with colors. You know, you probably should have a little bit of understanding color before you start choosing colors to go to each other, but I think a lot of that comes just from experience. Tech Zone. So there, that looks pretty good. So I'll go back and look at this. You know, there's one of the downers I will say about painting your minis is that you lose the color that indicates what it is. So, you know, green minis in this game are the herbivores, and the red minis are the carnivores. I was going to say omnivores, but they probably don't do that. So that's pretty dry. It's almost there. So I will put another, I think the dinosaur itself, well, there's a big pool of that color. So that's one of the things you have to look out for when you use these paints, is seeing it's gelling already, is the coffee staining is what they call it, where it pools and it looks strange. Now, this is not a big deal. Like I said, I want the colors to kind of blend into each other on the edges anyway, because I want them to look, for me, that looks more unified. I don't like them to be like, you know, two different colors right next to each other, and it's very clear what those colors, because here's the thing, in my mind, when colors are next to each other, they are reflecting on each other, and then they're going to blend. So if you're going to have a green next to a brown, you're going to have a little bit of green on that brown, and a little brown on that green. And that is how I try. And inks are one of the ways to do that. So again, I'm using these contrast paints that are kind of, this green is sort of a single pigmentish color. But I'm going to put another coat on. I'm going to thin it out again. I'm already out of the green. It's good though. I really don't want to have too much paint on my palette, because then I get things like this where this yellow is everywhere. I hope it'll come out. And it was a tiny amount of yellow. It's how invasive the yellow is as a color. Yeah, if you can, I'm not good with color management, I'll tell you that. I get so much paint on my palette, paint management. I get so much paint on my palette, and it's messy. And the contrast paints definitely are watery. Man, that yellow is intense though that I had on here. It's all over. I really like wet palettes. I backed 2 Kickstarter campaigns for Redgrass palettes, and they're delivered or delivering to people, so they might be available soon. They have, one of the things I'm using, actually I can show you this a little bit here for a second. I'm using their paper that they sell with it, and they give you some when you buy it, but it is, let's pull this out so you can see a little bit. Not in. So this is a palette with a sponge. As you can see, the yellow's in here. I'm going to have to try to clean that out. That holds all the water and keeps this paper damp, passes water through it, the membrane. This is called a membrane, to keep the paints hydrated. Now, this white did not last. It dried up pretty quickly. Now, it could be, it's not blowing, it's not really that hot here, but it is dry. But you can see the yellow here pooling, so it's bad. I got to clean all that out. Actually, I should just pour that out right now, and then just put new color in new clean water, because that's a lot of yellow. Wow, looks like a venom or something. And that's not a good thing. That's one of the things I don't like. Hey, but look what happened when I did that. It's okay. I will use all this paint real quickly. But yeah, I like wet palettes. They keep the paint, for me especially in Southern California, the paint dried too quickly. I've already been using things like retarder, which is something that slows down acrylic paints, the drying of acrylic paints. The problem is with that is I don't know that it will work with contrast paints. I don't even want to experiment with it because the chemistry of these paints is something that is cool. Now, I was actually going to show you on that palette. I've reused that membrane. You can reuse it up to 10 times. I just rinse it off when I'm done. And they claimed it to let it dry, but I'm not abusing it when I clean it. I actually only, I got to zoom back in. I only let it, I don't, you know, the only thing that's tough to actually get off of these is the contrast paints. They dry, the film is very hard and thin. You do need to, when you use contrast paints, you need to put a varnish on. I will do that before we're done. Actually, I will put that on the Triceratops today. What time is it now? It's 11:41. I still got lots of time. Not lots of time, but some time. 50 minutes about. But you need to put varnish on because the paint is it is delicate. And I have had it rubbed through to the undercoating. So that is another element. And you should actually varnish anything that you're going to be putting on the table and handle. And I varnish everything, but you should varnish because it's, you know, it's hard on your minis and your paint jobs. And if you're spending any time on it, you want to protect it. Your hands have got a lot of oils in it, and the varnish help protect from that. Another thing I also do is I clean my minis before I paint. I did not do that yesterday. We'll see how that goes. If I were using an enamel paint, a spray can enamel, I wouldn't worry about that so much because those enamels kind of break down the grease pretty quickly. And but I definitely, I was wondering too, I don't have many of my friends talk about cleaning the minis, but I'd read about it. You know, one of the things, the reason why you want to do it is there's a lot of release stuff in when they injection mold it, and you don't want that on the mini. And I did not do that yesterday. I was like, well, I know people that don't do it. I'll just go for it and see. And so far, the other minis, I did clean these. I cleaned the Jurassic ones because I realized, oh, you know what? These are going to take a little bit of time to dry. I'm going to need other things to prime while I'm waiting for the layers. And I'm actually happy with, these are probably my best undercoated minis because the whites are whiter. I waited longer between the coats to get it to be as bold as possible for the white and the gray, and it worked. I'll show you the Marvel United minis I painted yesterday as well, and you can see. I'll compare it to the, I might actually repaint one of the ones I have, reprime it. We'll see. I'm almost out of green again. I'm going through it quickly. So you can see I'm using a large brush and I'm doing some detail work. You can, I think the reason why large brushes are good, and I was always resistant, you know, I studied art at school, and I always was using real brushes, but when I came to painting minis, I started using tiny brushes. And I still need them. You saw me painting some stuff a little bit ago with it. But I think if you're going to start, you should start this way. Because what happens is the brush holds a lot of paint. You're not going back to the palette constantly to get more paint. And, you know, as I said, things dry quickly here. I mean, they dry on the brush. So I have to be concerned about all that all the time. Well, that looks cool. It already looks pretty solid there. So I'll let that dry again. I don't think I got enough white in that. I do need to do another coat. And I need to touch up this. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do for the field between, because on this one, I'm treating it like it's got a wood banding, and this had some stone thing that they had on there, so I didn't go over that. But here, like, it was wood banding, and I just left it gray because it's on stone. This is like, maybe I paint it black since it's nighttime in the movie anyway, and then have that little edge of brown, so we'll see. I want this to dry quickly because I'm very excited to paint this frieze here. I want to try it. Hopefully it'll be a little bit more bold than the one that was that the Triceratops had. It still looks cool. Excuse me, it still looks cool. It's out of focus. I probably could go in and do a dry brush on that. Anyway. So there's actually visible eye there, so I'm going to probably try to paint that yellow. I'll put some white on it first and then put the yellow. But this paint's going to take a bit of time to dry. I put on a lot. Well, there we go. That looks cool. One of the things I will do, though, I'll wait, though. I'm going to dry brush, I think, a little bit of highlight on top of... I might do the same on this one. Although it's darker. It was darker on top. I don't know. So maybe I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? Because like sun coming down. The zenithal highlight should do that. This is not... The lizard aspect I'm talking about here, well, I will probably do this more of a yellowish brown underneath and a darker color on top. But that's pretty good. Okay. Can I hold this from here? I can. So what I will probably do then is I will ink this right now, let it dry. I'm under the gun waiting. I've got so much area that I'm covering with a color. It's actually taking a little while to dry. More than I'm used to anyway. But yeah, you really want to have things dry as possible before you move on to the next step. Since this is going to be separated, I'm not going to be too worried about it. Again, so here's the thing. I hope, I believe these are still available. You want these. You don't want the paint to eat. It's much easier to much tougher to knock it down. If you have it, and it's so thin. I mean, it is like water. They're like water. So you'll see this is a shade, and I'm not worried about it getting on any of the other parts here because those are going to be brown. Now shades are different too. They're very wet. They take a long time to dry. Well, not a long time, but a longer time to dry. And they're pretty strong going on, so it'll be a different shade. It'll be a different color when it's all done. I don't want it to be too pulled up. Might be over applying it here. I was noticing, you know, in Jurassic Park, the columns inside the visitor center were like concrete with, I mean, obviously fake dinosaur fossils in the stone, but it looked great. I wanted to try to sort of do. I'm very eager to do the velociraptors. I'll show those. Those will be done. They have to be done on Thursday, so I'll show those on the stream on Thursday evening. You can see how they turned out. I'm off camera. This is wet. These are the new versions of these washes too. I mean, I don't have a ton of experience with the previous versions, but I liked them when I used them. So I'm drawing a little bit of it off because it's a little too much, because it'll all settle on the bottom, which is okay because it's more visible from the top, but kind of want them to be, there's a big pool of it right here. And then that's going to dry. I didn't have any green on my hands, so I didn't touch any of that. That's a good sign. It also is drying pretty quickly. So that's one of the, so this is the new bottle. It's 7, it's in the same size as the contrast paints. All the shades are now in the same size as the contrast paints, or they will be, I guess. And shades are essentially inks. This is the, let's see, Sarah from Seagate. This is the large bottle version of it, but you can see it's already a different color in there. So it's a different formulation. So I think this one is lighter than this one. Adam Smasher did a video talking about the new colors, and he was sad because he loves those. He loves those what do they call them? Technical? No, they're shades. It's a shade. I'm sad they got rid of the large bottle because I feel like you burn through them. I have used the gnome oil a lot, and you burn through it pretty quickly. Okay, well, let's get back and look at some of this white. Let me clean this brush. Definitely clean brushes. Likely had feathers. Would dry brushing help with a feather? Absolutely. I think dry brushing is a great solution. I think dry brushing is a great solution in general. I mean, I didn't use any on here on the dinosaur itself, but the stippling was what, you know, I mean, the challenge is like, how do you make it, the texture of the miniature is one of the things that will help you. This is very smooth. So if I were to dry brush it, I think I would have larger areas of smooth surface. And so I just thought the stippling would give it more of the scale look that the Triceratops had. This mini seems to have some texture that it does look like chicken skin, doesn't look like it has feathers. I'm tempted here. I don't know what color. Let me see here. I want to look at this one picture here. Images. I always have something on hand to just help quickly decide what I'm going to do. So I will try to do a little bit of this. Let's go for a, I want it to be lighter. It's going to be darker because it's the undercoating is darker. This was actually probably the weakest of the, I might as well show for a second. Maybe this will all be dry. So here's the Nick Fury I primed. His white is not strong. The highlights is not strong. Here is Baron Zemo. See how much brighter it is? This is because I waited a lot longer between coats. So I will probably come back and do another coat of white on here. It is, I feel, I don't mind them. I like them being a little bit darker, but I still like the flesh tone. I don't want it to be super dark on the sides. Here, I'll show you the one that's the most egregious example of that, and he's easy to find, is Professor X. See how dark it is here? I just didn't put enough effort into getting the color over the side. Now that's okay. I like his face being visible. You know, it's very dark and spooky. He's sitting there with his chair. This one here is lighter. It'll be fine, but I think I just want to do a little bit more direct. Now, mostly I'm spraying the white from above, so it doesn't even, this is probably the gray, but I still want to, I end up doing a little bit of emphasis on the faces, so because this is what you want to focus on when you're doing the mini. I also painted, that was Baron Zemo. I have no idea who this is, but he's cool looking. And then I did Kingpin. I wanted his coat to probably be white. What I'm hoping is I can paint this carefully and just leave this. Maybe put a very, very thin coat of apothecary white. But I actually like the white of the jacket. I think he has a white jacket. I didn't actually look at a picture before. Now, see, notice how I did it like I was supposed to, so it's darkish on, hey, look, there's some red too, underneath. So, you know, who knows? But I'm definitely happy. Here's MODOK. And look how, you kind of can't see it, how much shading. I mean, it's very deep and stuff for his face. But I think that'll be cool. But yeah, I was very happy I had time just to sit there and actually prime everything very carefully. See where we're at on this. So it's drying pretty quickly here. I guess I shouldn't start on. I want to focus on getting this one done. It is now 11:55. But I said I would. I'm going to let it dry a little bit longer, and what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and varnish this. So I use varnish from AK Interactive, and those guys have been not so great. And I've been buying from another company called MIG. They are, and I think Army Painter is it made in Spain? They're Swedish or something. Denmark. No, made in Denmark. Some other paint I was noticing. I think it was Army Painter though. Maybe it was a varnish, because it was in a bottle very similar to this. So I don't know if AK Interactive is making it or what, or if it's just a standard bottle size. But MIG Ammo is Ammo by MIG is one of the people that was from AK Interactive, and these guys had some pretty questionable stuff. AK Interactive, but I have, as you can see, pretty large bottles. I'm not going to throw them away, but I probably won't buy their stuff. So maybe look at the Army Painter. Again, it could be manufactured by AK Interactive. I don't know. But I think their varnishes are great. Also, I know that Vallejo, another Spanish company, has great varnishes, so you could go to them. It's, I don't know. We're in a weird time. Anyway, enough of that. I was able to get a good white on Kingpin's coat. I'll send you a pic. Awesome. I'd love to see it. Again, I'm trying to use contrast paints and stuff, but I might not worry about it. So I actually did finally varnish something on the stream recently. You see how it goes on very milky, but it dries very clear. This is a matte. I prefer matte. Not Kingpin. Red Skull was actually painted with Ultra Matte, which is another color, another varnish I have from these guys. I love the Ultra Matte, but I believe the Ultra Matte is thinner than the matte, so you probably need to do multiple coats if you're going to do the Ultra Matte. And I don't know what that does to the Ultra Matte, but you'll see here, he is super matte. This is the Ultra Matte. I wanted to experiment with it. I very much like it because I think I already had the bottle. I have 3 different types of finish. I have the Ultra Matte, the matte, and the satin. Satin's pretty shiny. It's not shiny enough to be like a gloss varnish, but it's not far from it, so you could use it in a pinch, or if you just want a different type of sheen compared to the rest of your mini. A Martin sheen. Pile of dung. It shouldn't be a pile of dung. And it will dry quickly. Varnish dries quickly here as well, but you don't want to handle it yet. You want it to definitely give it a good, solid dry to be as protective as possible. But we should be able to see before we're done here how it looks with the varnish, so you shouldn't be... I know some people like to spray varnishes. I told the story recently that I bought this varnish and immediately put it in an airbrush when I got home. It was during the pandemic. We went over to a store in Burbank, probably the best hobby painting store in the area, and they were open and you could go in, and a few people, and I went in and bought a few bottles of varnish and some other things, I think maybe some Vallejo stuff, and raced home and sprayed it. And I did not have a respirator. I did it inside. I was only going to do a tiny amount, but I will tell you, respirators are essential, because the smallest amount, I didn't even paint a whole mini. I just did a little bit just to see what it looked like, and it was in my lungs, like very quickly. So, you know, it's atomizing that paint, and these, I have no idea what's going on with these acrylic varnishes. So definitely, you know, wear a respirator. 3M makes even some basic ones that do a pretty good job. I actually have a 3M with cartridges that you would reload. And I definitely suggest it. But I started to say that the reason I actually just paint on the varnishes because with a brush, because they dry very flat. They don't seem to affect anything. I mean, it might be nicer if I airbrushed them, and maybe if I were doing like a showpiece, I would do that. I don't think I would ever do a showpiece. I don't have that kind of time. I've watched some people's streams of their showpiece stuff, and I'm like, wow, I don't have that kind of time. But it would be fun to do something a little bit more finely detailed. Although, I'll tell you, I think these look great already. I will not paint the bottom part. I'll wait till it's dry to do the bottom part, since I'm handling it. I usually put stuff, minis in holders, and these would actually fit. But, and I have tons of holders. I could totally do it and not have a problem. Varnish also helps to tie everything together too. It's really weird because it flattens stuff out. Like, you know, if you want something shiny, you can go back and add a shininess to it with a with another varnish, sheen of varnish. Charlie sheen this time. No Charlie sheen. You can see already it's drying pretty quickly. But the color, you know, you wouldn't know that it was on there really. Actually, I have a hard time checking to see if it is. Actually, let me just, since I'm not touching anything else, let me just put some on here and see how this goes. I thought about doing all these with the yellow, like the Jurassic Park logo, but like I said, throughout the show, the dinosaurs all had red placards or something with the red and black. And so I decided that's what I want to do because I thought the red would look cooler. I did look on BGG, there was only one photo, somebody who had painted the amber ones, and they left the dinosaurs themselves the amber color and then painted the surrounding, which was cool. I don't have the amber ones, so. Ours was a pre-production copy. I mean, I think it was close to really being the final product because it all seemed like it. But yeah, they sent us one in to do the game. We were like, they asked if we would be interested in March after being involved in the event. I'm like, yes, Nikki and I want to play the game more. But as I said, we didn't get back to it. Ooh, no, I can touch that. We'll let that dry. Let's go back to the Brachiosaurus here. So there you go. That's the freeze. I think that looks cool. I think the plants look pretty good too. I might ink them. Let's paint a little bit of white on the eye so that can dry. And it's a tiny amount, so it won't get in the way of touching anything else. Where is that brush? There we go. Boy, that paint is dry again. I don't know what's going on. Again, acrylic, white. I'm not a fan of white. I think it dries, that is probably what the deal is, it dries too quickly. And it may just be part of because of where I live, right? It definitely, we are in a dry environment, and stuff dries very quickly. But man, I mean, I have paints on here from yesterday that are still wet, and that white is dry in, you know, minutes. So, here I am, I'm painting eyes on camera. This will be where I mess up as usual. For whatever reason, I can do just fine when I do it on my own. That's pretty good. One of the things when you thin it, though, is that it definitely takes more coats. It's not focusing. Ugh, that's what I said. Sloppy. The good thing is you can pretty much, if you go quickly, you can remove it, and then I want that to be dry though. And then repaint it. I literally should be using a holder though, because then my hands are together and they will be moving at the same rate. I literally moved when I put my hand on that. So let's see if I can do this. The eyes seem beady, but she's a giant beast. Munching on some, she's like, they think they said she was a cow, essentially a cow. Okay, well there you go. And then I'll put some yellow on top of that. I have to decide what I want to do there. So I have some black on here, that was from yesterday. That's also Monument paints. I think it's kind of, for whatever reason, the black is definitely better than the white. But yeah, you can wet pellets, especially if you refrigerate them. I actually don't refrigerate it. We have a refrigerator here in the studio that is packed with drinks, so I don't have any room to put that in there. If I did, I would put it too close to the freezer, and that is a bad idea. So I'm going to use a slightly larger brush to try to do what I was talking about a bit before. Can't really tell if this paint's okay. Seems okay. Black looks weird. I can never, when I'm priming, I'm always, oh, that's good, good coat. Then as soon as it's drying off, I'm like, oh, I did a terrible coat. Too many holes. But it looks, because it's so dark and the shadows, the reflections when it's wet, mislead you. Okay, so I just painted the eye, so I won't be risking anything. Let's just see if I can do, something stuck on the end of this brush. Little hair. Thank you, Joe King. I'm trying. I would really like them to be solid here. I'll let it go. Make that wooden band a little narrower on this one. I think this is probably the right solution. I know Duncan Rhodes always says, multiple thin coats, so I agree. That's probably the best way to do it, instead of trying to slop it all on in one coat. Now, if it's thin enough and it does good coverage, I think this Monument paint is pretty solid as far as coverage. This is a black. Black should do okay. I will have to paint today, though. I need to finish these probably today, because I have to prepare this week's episode. We filmed 2 weeks ago. We filmed Marvel Dice Throne. We played it on the stream. Nikki and I played it 2-player on the stream, and we shot it with Dave and Aaron, and it should be good. We had a fun time. Aaron was started the thing with, oh, another Marvel, but he enjoyed it. I think when we did Marvel United, he said something about if you were to tell 14-year-old me that the bulk of the movies would be Marvel movies and, they'd be good, I'd have been going crazy. But he said, he's not so into the Marvel stuff now. Oops. That's fine. I'm rubbing it off because I want to paint. I'll touch it back up, but I don't want to have to. I just stuck it in white. Thinking about white. I don't want to have to be putting too many coats on to get it to cover. That looks cool. It kind of looks like Into the Night. It's a little kind of hard to paint under there. Plus it's not going on very well, so I'm just going to move quickly and let it dry fast and then come back and just do the white after I do the second coat of black. Ugh. Let that dry a minute. It will dry very quickly. I'm going to put a little bit more black on that green dot that I got there, painting the foliage. We were laughing last night when we were looking at the movie. I'm sure it's been everybody's thought, but to have so many species of dinosaurs, you know, found in amber, I'd say that the researchers were lucky, super, super lucky. Because in my mind, they'd have one DNA sample of a specific, one species. A species, so it's 1212. Let's look at this. I think this is pretty dry, so you can see it looks good. It has a tiny bit of sheen. This is supposed to be a matte. It's a little too much of a sheen in my opinion, but that's okay. It's part of like probably trying to protect it. I'm not going to paint the bottom part yet. The red looks fine. It's got a little bit of a sheen now. This is supposed to be, I didn't pick satin, no, I picked matte. So it's a little shiny for me, but I'm going to keep letting it dry because I don't want to handle it until it's very dry before I paint the top part. So her eye is white. I have all this yellow that's all over my palette. I'll just use that one. I gotta clean this up as soon as we're done though. Problem is I really have a meeting, so I may not be able to do it yet. I wish I'd noticed I didn't actually take the lid off the palette. Mistake. But I generally am now cleaning the palette after every paint job. It was dinner time and, no, I actually came back out and painted. It was bedtime. And I really wanted to get to bed because I had to be up this morning to get some stuff done. Come on, focus. It's usually so fast. Don't know what's doing that. A little bit of a bump. Let's see if I can clean it up without too much fuss. Yep, there we go, it looks good. You can actually do quite a bit as long as you move fast. And then I will probably paint a little vertical pupil. Because that's just what they are in my mind. That's pretty dry already, that black. I think I need to put a little bit more down on the palette. I wish Nick didn't live up, Nick Murphy didn't live up in, lives up near Oxnard now. He used to be in the Valley, but he's a mini painter. I would love to just get together and paint. We used to do that all the time 20 years ago, and it was fun. I really like painting with a group. It's lots of inspiration, and you know, I learned quite a bit from. I did not learn enough from my friend Alf. He was close to his vest on certain techniques that I would have loved to have learned, but it's okay. Oh boy, it's almost the end of the stream here. Yeah, his wet blending technique, he was so good. I wonder if he paints anything anymore. He is a engineer and he lives back east now. But he was a really great painter. I'm okay. I mean, can rise to the occasion occasionally. This is very flat black. Okay, I think that is enough of that. I'll give that a second to dry and then I'll go and paint the white edge of that to clean that up. It's usually the best way to do it. It's such a tiny little space that you're working in. I am absolutely going to put more white down. I'm going to clean up this white because it is just too chalky. Although it's drying okay, but it's very clumpy on the palette here. Actually, I won't clean it. Well, I do want to get the yellow out of there. I will clean the palette when I get a chance, but I have to do that meeting. But you can see, I mean, I've only been painting for a little more than an hour and 15 minutes, I think. Nah, maybe an hour and a half. I've been talking a lot too, so who knows. But you can get a lot done. This is pretty close. And I think within 2 hours, if I was uninterrupted, I would have this one done. I mean, it looks really good already. The green looks so good. The eye's a little big. The iris is a little big or whatever. But it's fine. Nobody's going to see it. Clean the brush. These white bristle brushes really let you know that you haven't got it clean. So basically it looks to me like I just need to use fresh Monument paint. Because it's much better here. I mean, I think I need to use, I'm getting a little sloppy because I'm moving too fast. I think I just have to constantly use fresh paint. That's probably what it is. Not bothering with the wet palette. I mean, definitely use the wet palette, but put a very small amount on and come back and put another bit more on because it seems to be smoother. But I will tell you, I put on fresh paint yesterday and I still had some of the problems that I have with whites. I'm not too worried about the white being too strong or anything like this because I just add more contrast paint over it to even it out. But contrast paint definitely helps conceal your mistakes when you paint them on. So that looks pretty good. It's not perfect over here, but I'm not going to sweat it too much. That's a little too thin right there. Paint that. Now, I won't paint the wood today on this, or right now on this, because I do feel you need to wait a while for whites. What time is it? It's 12:21. Got a couple more minutes. Okay, well, let's see where this is at. This is pretty dry. I will continue the varnish since it is still wet, because it will dry pretty quickly. I don't put varnish on a wet palette. So let's go for it. Okay, let's finish this guy off. So I painted that cylinder around that, or varnished it, so I don't necessarily need to do that again, but maybe because you want to coat more than once. I would definitely let them dry a long time before you put them in any kind of storage or anything that's tight, because, you know, paints are definitely a little plasticky and sticky when you first do them. It's the one thing where I think a solvent-based varnish might be better. I would never do it, but it might be better just because for me they dry harder. But I painted our dressers or nightstands, or not varnished, I stained them and put them together a long time ago, our nightstands in our bedroom, and I used an acrylic varnish, and it's pretty tough. Okay, well, that fella's done-ish. Put him aside to let him dry. Okay, let's look back at this. It's definitely pretty dry. Got black that's fresh. Let's try to paint that little slit. This is not as fine a brush as I would do for this, because I mean, I literally have used single hair brushes, you know, to do things like this, but I actually don't have anything like that. It's kind of just a dot. Okay. I'm not really sure what their eyes look like. Don't know that we know at all anyway. They basically are guessing on all that. That looks pretty good. I did okay. Maybe I broke the spell on the painting stuff on the stream. Okay, well, let's paint a little tiny bit of the brown. I don't have a lot of time left, but I have some it's dried. That's how quickly this stuff dries. So I put down a little bit of Gorgonzola fur when I was painting the Brachiosaurus's flesh, and it dried quickly. But I will do the bottom edge first, since it's not freshly painted. Even though I probably would wait till I was, I'm using a small brush for this. I'd probably wait until I was done with the rest of the mini. I just want to do a little bit of stuff. I can't finish it right now. I will say it doesn't bode too well for me today if I need to get 2 more done. I was really excited to do the foliage, and I think the foliage looks great. I am excited about doing so the one thing I actually probably should have done these guys is to show painting. It's going to be impossible to get in there and do everything, so I'm going to do what I can and let the dark part of the mini hopefully give us enough coverage so that you don't really notice that it's not painted back there. So I'm not worried about this. To me, this looks like a marine paint, deck painting, where it's a little kind of strong and splotchy. Marine spar varnish is what they call that, I think. I will probably come back with another coat though. So a lot of this color that I'm putting in here is kind of already there because of the sepia tone, Seraphim Sepia settling, which is a win since I decided to paint it a color that is very similar. I definitely don't want white or gray peeking through, but any brown coverage is good. See, that looks good to me already. I really, really like, I think these are great. I think they're a neat design. Well, it is, I do need to stop. We will be streaming on Thursday, the 22nd at 5:30 p.m. PDT, Pacific Daylight Time. And let me switch cameras here. But you should, if you can, join us. It'll be first time we had Candace on a live stream. I don't think we've ever done any live stream with Candace, although we will be doing more. And then I'll be back painting. I think we're going to stream on Tuesday, so I'll be painting again on the Monday at 3 p.m. PDT. I'm doing a different time so I can actually get some things done in the morning, since it's the beginning of the week. And hopefully you can join me. This is looking pretty great. I don't think it'll be in focus because it's not out of focus, but the varnish looks good on it. And you'll see all these on Thursday. I have to get them done, and you can see how they turned out. And then I will paint, as I said, I'll paint next Monday. I'll paint the first one that we open. Again, it's 3 different. I think we choose from 3, so I don't even know. We did open one when we tried it, when we played that second level, second adventure, and I don't even remember what we opened, so I'm excited to see what they are. We will raid. Let me do this quickly. We're going to raid. Let's see us go on. Maybe the Bromers will be going. Let's see what we got. Nope. Hey, Rado, but they might be, we're probably hitting the discussion, end of a discussion. Anyway, everybody hang around for Rado, see what they're doing, and everybody take care, and hopefully I'll see you again on Thursday. Bye, everybody.